we don't think about what it's like at the end. It is not fun. It's not typically like, oh, you just go to sleep.
To a point where we can take 100 people, treat them with something, 2 months later, see if they've gotten younger or not. And those experiments are being done right now. It's what you love doing.
Happy birthday, Dad. Well, so I am a self-experimenter. I think if you gave me a week to live, I'd be on a plane back to Boston today to try this. I mean, there is nothing to lose. It's all about risk-reward, right?
Yeah.
And we know what the risk of not doing anything is. I'll probably be dead in a week. But that's true for aging too. We know what's going to happen if we do nothing. That's why I take some risk in taking supplements and doing different diets, because I know that the end is not pretty.
Right.
We all are in denial, most of us, that that's going to happen to us. It's just slow motion. If it's not a week, it's a decade or a few decades from now that we're going to suffer. I watched my mother die in front of me. She suffocated to death.
Fuck.
And you know, nobody should go through that as a human being, experiencing suffocation. And I don't think children should watch that either. But the point there is that we're in denial. I mean, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, but we don't think about what it's like at the end. It is not fun. It's not typically like, oh, you just go to sleep. Those are the lucky ones. So I'm in a race against time to figure out how to safely reset the age of the body. I would try it, even though I think a lot of people and Harvard Medical School will be upset that I've said that. But realistically, and I'm always honest, I would seriously consider it.
And what's important about this clock to realize is that it doesn't just tell you your biological age. You can actually predict when you're going to die or when someone's going to die. And when I say that, some people, that I don't want to know this. Well, consider this, that 80% of your future health is in your own hands. It's modifiable. 20% is genetic, which you can't do much about yet. That's powerful. I mean, if you have the tools to change your rate of aging, first of all, you have to measure it to know if it's working. So I recommend that, and we'll talk about ways to do that practically. But if once you have that number, then work with me. We can tell you here in the podcast how to actually slow and reverse that process. Right. So that you can measure proteins in the blood which change predictably over time. There's a protein called GDF15, which is circulating. It's now a really great biomarker for aging. In fact, GDF15 is one of those genes that was used in that study we referred to last episode, where the Mediterranean diet slowed the aging process. They found that GDF15, the methylation on that clock marker, was also slowed down. The point here being that these proteomic clocks and the epigenetic clocks and some others like an immuno clock can be used now to understand what slows down aging, but importantly, how do you reverse it with various treatments? And we've gone from a field where we had no idea what was going on in aging. Really, we had to look at tens of thousands of people on metformin to see if it helped health, to a point where we can take 100 people, treat them with something, 2 months later, see if they've gotten younger or not. And those experiments are being done right now. Right. So right now, if you want to check your biological age, you can go to Inside Tracker, one of our kind sponsors. That's a blood test. Or you can also have a DNA test, which is available for a few $100s from various vendors. A student in my lab, Patrick Griffin, we've posted recently a paper which can be accessed on bioarchive.org that describes a way to put together thousands of people's samples and run them all together, bringing the cost of that test down to less than $1, which means that very shortly in the future, when we bring out this product, and we are bringing it out soon, you should be able to do this test routinely and see whether you try a new diet or a supplement or just meditation, whether you're actually benefiting from that. The epigenome is the regulator of the DNA. It tells the genes whether to be on and off, and that goes wrong during aging and may actually be the reason we age. And one of the reasons we believe that is that you can measure biological age now in people. I could take one of your cells, Matt, back to my lab. Well, actually, I have to take a chunk of your cells or a cheek swab, and we can measure the rate of your aging. It's called the Horvath clock or DNA methylation clock. And when you look at people that have lived a healthy lifestyle, say they've been exercising for the last 30 years, they are much younger epigenetically, according to this clock, than someone who hasn't. So that tells us that very likely that exercise is not just protecting you against cardiovascular disease, it's slowing down your overall rate of aging.
But getting back to what we can do every day, the main concept that I think we all need to remember is that our bodies respond well to perceived adversity. Right? Those of us who, like to struggle in life, I know you're that kind of guy. It's don't give up, just keep going. Our bodies respond well to that. As long as you're not doing long-lasting harm, an adversity mimetic, which can be don't eat so much, don't eat so often, exercise, be cold, be hot. There are some other tweaks to that. High pressure oxygen therapy is another.
It's not just running, right? Like, what's the best kind of exercise?
Well, there isn't one
It's the
best.
exercise you're going to do.
It's what you love doing. And it can be a sport. It could be windsurfing. It could be sailing. But just move. That's the main thing. There's even sex, which is, we actually looked this up.
What my lab and many others now are doing is racing to find easier ways to reset the age of the body. Gene therapy, it's here, but it's not going to be, mainstream soon. It's always going to be expensive, hundreds of thousands of dollars of treatment. What happens when you can take a pill that will reset your age by a year? Happy birthday, Dad. Take this pill.
Incredible.
And if you reset your age by a year every year, that's pretty interesting.
Escape velocity.
And there are experiments now where people have reversed their DNA methylation age, which we can now measure, by a couple of years. And that only takes a year. So now people are going back, at least their bloodstream is going back younger than that year took them forward.
Wow.
So we are on the verge of something super interesting in humanity. It opens up all sorts of questions about what's the world going to look like for maybe us, certainly for our kids.